Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a project to celebrate Concord 9th's 10th birthday, and I'm using some older products. We're going through products throughout the years and sharing some brand new inspiration. I am using the Lovely Blossoms TurnAbout stamp and coordinating die set, and I'm going to create a unique flap style card with this product suite. But really, I wanted to show you how to use TurnAbout stamps. So I'm starting out with my Misty stamping tool, and I have the Concord 9th TurnAbout jig here that I'm placing in that lower right-hand corner. Now, each TurnAbout stamp comes with the positioning guide as well as the stamp, and you're going to want to make sure that you place this onto your TurnAbout jig where the black X lines up with the white X on the TurnAbout jig. You also want to ensure that you have the writing face up so that you can read it. That way, you'll be able to position your stamp easily. Now I'm removing the stamp from the backer that it comes on, and I'm lining up the pattern on the stamp with the pattern on that placement guide. Once I have the alignment complete, I'm going to shut the lid of my Misty and pick up the stamp. It will also pick up the placement guide, but you can just remove that, and then you're going to want to save that because you'll need it every time you stamp with this. Once I have my stamp in place, I'm going to remove the protective film from the TurnAbout jig and place my paper. Now I'm using 5.5 by 5.5 inch square, but you can also use an A2 size card front and place that with the alignment guides on the TurnAbout jig. I'm stamping using Tidepool ink first, and between each color that you stamp, you're going to want to clean your stamp and then wipe it dry. Now, if you're using the same color ink over and over, you don't necessarily need to do that step. Once you've stamped with your first color, I'm going to pick up the jig and rotate it a quarter turn and place it into the lower right-hand corner of my Misty stamping tool. Then I'm going to ink up with Grapefruit ink and stamp again. Now, the cool thing about the TurnAbout jig is that it is a slightly tacky surface, so it holds your paper in place as you rotate it throughout each of these different turns. And there's also numbers in each upper right-hand corner that tell you which number stamping you're on. So there's a little 2 in the upper right-hand corner that tells me that I'm on stamp number 2. Now, each of these TurnAbout stamps can be stamped 1, 2, 3, or 4 different times in as many colors as you want to create unique patterns. So once I've stamped my grapefruit, I'm going to pick up the jig again and rotate it a quarter turn to where the 3 is in that upper right-hand corner. I've cleaned my stamp, and now I'm inking up with Wildberry ink, and this ink is so beautiful. And I love that this project combines some classic C9 products with some newer colors from Concord 9th. I think that's a fun pairing. Now, the TurnAbouts are available in a variety of different styles and patterns, and you're going to see what this looks like when it's stamped 3 times. I have placed a link to the TurnAbouts, all of the TurnAbouts at Concord 9th in the YouTube description below. So if you want to check out the different varieties of patterns that they have available, you'll want to click that link. I love the Plaid TurnAbout stamp, but it's currently sold out, but it's perfect for the holidays and for masculine cards. Now I'm cleaning up this Wildberry ink with a baby wipe, and then I'm going to wipe my stamp clean, but truth be told, I did not get this clean, and you're going to see this in my next stamping because I'm using a much lighter color. So for the 4th stamp, you can see I already turned my TurnAbout jig to the number 4 position. I'm inking up with Pebble here. And because I didn't get this exactly clean, this is going to actually leave me with like a pinkish color, which really resembles Briar Rose. And honestly, when I saw the color, I wasn't mad about it. So I did not redo this. I thought, that's not what I expected, but I don't hate it, so I'm going to leave it here. You can see I'm kind of looking at it and thinking about what am I going to do? So that's all that there is to stamp a TurnAbout stamp. It's all about positioning your stamp, placing your paper, and then turning or rotating your paper on that jig 4 times to achieve that full pattern. And this is a great way to create your own pattern paper-like effect. Now I'm taking the coordinating die set, which features this beautiful hexagon and the "You Are Lovely" sentiment, and I'm die cutting this from some Pebble cardstock. I've also die cut the sentiment twice from some plain white cardstock, and I'm also die cutting it from the champagne foil cardstock. I love this champagne foil. It is so beautiful. It's warmer than a silver, but it's not quite as in your face as the matte gold. And we all know that I love the matte gold. So once I did my die cutting, I'm also trimming down some strips. These measure about 3/16 of an inch each. And I'm cutting those, I'm not die cutting them, but I'm cutting them from Nectar, Tidepool, Briar Rose, and Wildberry cardstocks. Now this type of trimmer is not ideal for some of the more cottony types of cardstocks. Sometimes when you use this type of trimmer, you get a little fuzz on the edge of your cardstock. In order to remove that, you can use a really fine grit nail file, or if you use a rotary trimmer, I find that that avoids this problem completely. Now I'm taking the 2 layers of plain white cardstock that I've die cut using that sentiment die, and I'm stacking them behind that champagne version there, just to give this a little bit of dimension. This sentiment die kind of cuts in 2 segments, so I'm going to repeat the process for that second segment. Now I have these strips and I'm ready to lay them down onto my hexagon shape. So I'm just adding a little bit of liquid glue to the back and adding it to the hexagon at an angle. I'll continue to do this with all 4 colors of cardstock, making sure that each one of them is kind of butted up against the previous one so that there's no gap. And you could also lay down the glue along the previous strip, but I prefer to just put it on the back of the cardstock strip that I'm working with. Once those are all in place, it adds this bright spot of color to this hexagon. I'm going to trim off the excess, and then I'm going to add my sentiment. But I should not have done this, and you're going to see me kind of pull this up here in just a moment. Now, eventually the sentiment will go here, but I forgot that I wanted to use the detail die that's included in the die set, and it has this stitching that goes just inside the outer edge of this simple hexagon. So you can use this hexagon with or without. And because those dies were kind of stacked up, those die cuts were stacked up, I couldn't run this through with the die cut in place. So I just removed my sentiment very carefully. You can see I have a hot mess underneath, but we're going to place it right back. I ran my die through with that little stitch die, and then once again, I'm gluing my sentiment right back in place. I trimmed down my background that I created using that TurnAbout stamp, and then I used the little heart that's included in the die set, or the little heart die that's included in the die set, to die cut some Briar Rose cardstock, and I'm using an embellishment tool to place these onto the front of my hexagon, just kind of scattered throughout the sentiment there, going from the upper left to the lower right. Now remember, we cut 2 of these pebble layers of this hexagon, and we're going to create a unique flap design on the front of this card. This is actually the only opening part of this card. In order to do this, I've folded a piece of pebble cardstock in half, and I've trimmed it down to where it will fit inside of that edge of the hexagon. So on that flat edge that's going to be against the left side of my cardstock, you can see it's just a little folding hinge flap here. It measures about 2 inches wide with that score line at 1 inch and about 1.5 inches long. So now I'm going to take some tape runner adhesive and adhere that flap to my back hexagon. You can see it's just right there along that left edge, and that's going to flap open. Then I'm going to close the flap and add some adhesive to the top portion and add that second hexagon right on top of the flap. This creates an opening design that I can put on my card front. I'm taking my time to make sure that I get everything lined up properly, because this will line up against the left edge of this card, and I want to make sure that it's nice and clean. And once I get that into place, I'll show you here. This will mount on the card, and then it will be able to open, and you can write a personal sentiment inside of this opening area. Now to clean that up and to add a place that's a little simpler to write on, I die cut another hexagon from some white cardstock, and I'm nestling that right into the open area of this card. And then I die cut the hexagon one more time, because this hexagon actually creates a thin frame when you die cut it. I die cut it from some of that champagne foil cardstock, and I'm just lifting it off the magnetic mat of my Anna Griffin Empress using my embellishment tool. To position the hexagon on this card front, I'm using some foam adhesive and just lining it up there along that left edge. And then I'll take some liquid glue, place it on the back of that frame that I die cut, and place it around the hexagon that's positioned on the card front. Now, I wanted to remind you that this card is not going to open like a traditional card, so I will not place this on an A2 size card base, although you could. Instead, I'm just going to layer up some colored and white cardstock behind this to kind of give it a little bit of strength. So I have some Tidepool cardstock here that's cut just slightly larger than my background. You can see that beautiful thin Tidepool border. And then I'm using some foam adhesive to place this on a white cardstock panel that measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. So again, the card base itself does not open. The only opening portion on this card is that hexagon on the front. Now, to add a little shine to this card, I'm just going to use some glossy accents and cover all of these adorable tiny little hearts that I've positioned on my card front to make those shine. And that finishes off my card project today that is in honor of Concord 9th's 10th birthday. We are throughout the week going through some classic C9 products and showcasing them in a new way. And we're sharing this in an Instagram hop over on Instagram where there are prizes and inspiration with Concord 9th products that you may already have. So be sure to join me over on Instagram to check all that out. And I will have my Instagram profile linked in the YouTube description below. Be sure to check out that YouTube description because there I will also have links to all the featured products used in this project. As always, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you are leaving with a little light and a little inspiration in your life. I'm so glad you're here. If you enjoyed this project and you enjoyed this video, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here on my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my card making, paper crafting, and live stream video tutorials. Thanks again for watching. I'm so glad you're here. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. To subscribe to my channel, go ahead and click the button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.